All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast from still the aforementioned Chase Thomas coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. We got a pod divided, a Tennessee Vols versus Georgia analyst CFB show that we do here twice a week during the college football season with my good friend, the University of North Georgia alumni, Matt Green. We talk about week one. Our preview series here kicks off. Week one, fourth year, I think we've been doing this here on the pod. So excited to start actually talking about games that are happening tonight, actually, here on a Thursday, August 29th, 2024, on the program. Because, yeah, we got a lot of college football on the docket here this evening. So we talk about a lot of those games that are popping up here tonight, like Minnesota and North Carolina and Colorado and North Dakota State, where we had a lot to say on that potential matchup. We talk about Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton and a lot of balls making NFL rosters this week. We talk about Georgia Clemson, if Clemson's going to give Georgia a fight. We talk about Notre Dame, Texas A&M, USC, LSU, why USC might have a better shot than a lot of people are giving them credit for, Florida, Miami, and a whole lot of other big games here to kick off the week one 2024 college football season. So all that more coming up next here with Matt Green. Don't forget, folks, you can watch this show on youtube.com/Chase Thomas Podcast. Like and subscribe if you have not already done so on our YouTube channel and you're watching us right now, or you want to watch this show. It's very easy. Just go to youtube.com/Chase Thomas Podcast. Like and subscribe. Over 2.1 thousand subs and growing each and every day here on the channel. So make sure you're locked in there if you prefer to watch our daily program. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or however you get your podcast. You can listen in any of those mediums. And if you have not already done so and you like what you hear today, or you're a frequent subscriber, all that good stuff, make sure you hit that pause button right now and leave this show a 5-star rating and write us a review. It helps other people find the show, and it helps this very show continue to grow a little bit more each and every day. Learn more about Knoxville's #1 independent Tennessee Vols sports podcast. You can do so by going to chasethomaspodcast.com. Learn more about me, the show, and everything we got cooking here on this Tennessee Vols college football podcast. So yeah, Chase Thomas Podcast. Email us, chasethomaspodcast@gmail.com as well. All right, Uncle Darren, let's go.
The Chase Thomas Podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas Podcast from still the aforementioned Chase Thomas coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee. Everything School HQ. Down there in Decatur, Georgia, my good friend, fellow University of North Georgia alumni, Matt Green, is here. Matt, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, sir. It is we've been waiting a long time for this. 2 days now till the real college football season starts. We got football this Thursday night. Obviously, we had football last Saturday, but yeah, man, it feels good. It's finally back.
It is back. You get a Sunday game, you get a Monday game. We have Thursday and Friday night stuff too, sprinkled in. That's one of the other cool things about week one. No NFL competition this week, so you can spread out a little bit in terms of what big games. Like, I'm really excited that I will be able to watch LSU and USC from start to finish and not have really any interruptions, because I think there's a strong possibility that that's the game of the weekend, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, week one's here. It's not a overly stacked slate, but it's a really well organized slate with the big games, with Notre Dame and A&M at night. You got Miami and Florida at 3:30. You have Georgia and Clemson at 12. And then obviously LSU gets its own time on Sunday. And I don't know, it's just a very well organized where you're not going to be like, hey, where do I need to draw my attention? Because it was fun last week that everybody was watching Florida State and Georgia Tech together. Like, that's a cool thing when all of the college football community is locked in on one particular game.
I feel like that's probably going to be one of the advantages with ABC, Disney owning like all the SEC stuff, to be able to balance those out how you want it. Obviously, when you got big time games in the Big Ten going on, there'll be some games going on at the same time. But I would say you're a bigger NFL fan than I am. Do NFL fans like Thursday night football?
They don't complain. Like, it's another Thursday night game. I think it's understood that it's the. I mean, I think it's just you're not against it, but the games are like one of the issues with the NFL on Thursday night and just in general before the season is like it's really hard to figure out because there's so much turnover in terms of season to season, who's good and who's not. It feels like Thursday night football ends up getting the worst game somehow. Like even before the year, like it might
Always.
not be that, but then the season happens and there are injuries and this, that, and the other, and it's such a gamble on who's going to be good because so many teams from the playoffs the year prior don't make the playoffs the next year that it's got to be maddening to do the schedule for the NFL because you try really hard to figure out, okay, like obviously the Chiefs are going to be good, but it's really hard to figure out 18 teams and whether or not they're going to be able to put on good games on Thursday nights or whatever. College is a little bit easier. Like I think college, like you don't really have to overthink Tennessee, Alabama. You don't have to overthink Georgia, Clemson, or Georgia, Alabama,
Well,
Georgia, Texas.
you do have so much overlap in college. Like I loved Thursday night college football that we had in the 2000s when it was like those second rank like second tier type games. Like you'd get those like teams that ranked maybe in the 20s or a couple unranked teams, and you just I don't know. It seemed to be like a certain teams had their kind of niche that they could play on Thursdays sometimes. But I like despise NFL Thursday night football. Like I don't even like think about it. Like I never even tune in. I forget it's on. Like I feel like Thursday should be a college football night. Play on Sundays. If I'm in charge of the NFL, we're just going to stagger the games better on Sunday. Like just do a few games starting at noon, do a few games starting at 3, a few games starting at 6, a few night games. Like it doesn't seem that difficult. Like but I'm sure the whole gambling, whatever, they want to have those 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock slots, but I don't know. I think I don't like the NFL being on like 4 days a week.
I mean, I'm just not against. Look, folks, watch what you want to watch. I like options. You know what I mean? Like I like that there's different things to watch every day. If the NFL and college football are on 4 days a week apiece, like I'm not against it because there are gonna be some NFL games that I'm gonna prioritize over college games and flipping it. And when the NBA gets started back in late October, November, like there's some Hawks stuff mixed in here, and I'm a big NBA guy, so I'll watch a lot of that. Fall is just the best time. There's just so much to parse through. Major League Baseball postseason, that's also obviously one of the best. Like the fall is just a perfect time. Now I will say it's a little weird looking at these start times. Like Tennessee plays at like 12:45 on Saturday instead of a nooner. So the Clemson Georgia game, like if you look at a lot of these schedules, like one of the things that's gonna be different is there's gonna be some weird start times this season as opposed to in years past. But at least I'll get to watch at least intently the first 45 minutes of Georgia Clemson on Saturday. But
Absolutely. You better be double screening that or something. Like get a little picture in picture action going.
I don't know. America's watching America's team with Nico Yamaliava on Saturday
in the
against the
Mocs?
Mocs. In the Smoky Grays, Matt Green. I'm gonna be interested to see what you think about these.
Terrible. What are they doing? The season
They're playing
opener.
a tri-star
You come out.
team.
You come
They're
out
playing
your
a tri-star
traditional
team.
look in the season opener. I
They're
don't like
playing
it
another
one
in-state
bit.
team.
I don't like. They can't rock the black and the gray. They got to make a choice. They got to make a choice. They're orange and white. They're so clean. They look
Well, I
so
think
good.
there's a mandate from on high that they have to wear the orange and white for the big one. So like Florida and Bama, they're wearing the orange and white. So there are certain games that they have to stay traditional, but they can.
There's a while there that Florida and Georgia like alternate as home games for Tennessee. There's a while there that was the gray game like every year, and it's like, you gotta don't do too much with the alternate. You still get your identity, just the Tennessee orange. It's like it's a good look. It's a great uniform.
One apiece is fine. I mean, Tennessee baseball just won a national title wearing the black unis, the dark mode. Like
other sports don't. Those are not relevant. To
dark
football.
mode looks great, man. I just think you're bitter because Georgia will never go back to the dark, the black jerseys, and you're just annoyed that they won't do it.
No, but that doesn't make me bitter. I love a good alternate jersey. Obviously, Georgia's black. I wish they'd wear them at least once a season, but. I feel like with the alternates, you can only do one thing. Either you're rocking that gray alternate, you're rocking the black. I don't know. I don't like both. That's my 2 cents on the uniform. The unis are over here.
Well, Matt Green, before we dive into our CFB Week 1 predictions, we have a couple things we want to get into, specifically the Tennessee Volunteers, and we'll get into some dog bites that I think actually is linked to this. But a lot of Tennessee Vols, Matt Green. Don't look now. But one of the things that's going to help Josh Heupel on the recruiting trail, that it's not like he needs it with the number 6 class in 2025, but Ramel Keaton, undrafted, makes the Raiders this week. D. Williams, undrafted, makes the Seattle Seahawks 53-man this week. Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker both make the 53-man rosters on their respective teams. It's been a good week for a lot of VFLs across the NFL. I mean, I think in terms of specifically Hooker and Milton, one of the things that stood out to me, Hooker had a great preseason. I don't know if you watched any of what he was doing with Detroit, but he locked up that quarterback 2 job, and obviously missing all of last year, recovering from his torn ACL he suffered against South Carolina late November of 2022. But he was moving around the pocket, and he had this one drive, which it's one of the things that made Hendon Hooker different, and I mean one of the best Tennessee quarterbacks really of all time during his tenure at Tennessee, was that he was so good at just dropping whatever bad thing happened on the previous series, where he threw a pick in the last Lions preseason game and then immediately goes back down the field and leads a big game-leading touchdown drive. Like Hendon Hooker, as you recall, against Alabama in 2022, Matt Green, one of the things that separated him in that game, and that's easy to forget about, is that he fumbles the handoff to Jabari Small with 7 minutes, I think, about in the fourth quarter. Dallas Turner picks it up, scoop and score, TD. Alabama goes up 49-42. And it was like, oh, same old. Yeah, same old Tennessee, where it's like, oh, they hung around. It was cute for a while. Now here comes the implosion, and it's they're not going to be able to finish this out. Then he immediately goes back down the field and ties the game, 49-49. He wipes it from his memory. It's just like, oh, bad thing, whatever. Hendon Hooker was just so good at that, and I people can continue to doubt him. 3rd round pick. He's going to be behind Jared Goff, but one of the things I've told people when asked about Milton and Hooker and the NFL and their NFL chances, like half the league, so 16 starters last year, Matt Green, missed time due to injury. So one of the things about having more mobility at the quarterback position, I think one of the fallbacks to that is more guys are getting hit and injured. So they're just putting themselves in harm's way, it seems like, a lot more often. So Hendon Hooker now QB2 in Detroit, a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl this year. And he's right there behind Goff. And we'll see if Goff stays healthy for 17 games. But if last year was any indication, he and Joe Milton are right there, and both have an opportunity to maybe see some playing time this fall, just with the nature of the modern quarterback position and how many injuries are popping up year over year in the NFL. But Keaton's a great story in Vegas. Obviously, Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt still thriving in Cleveland and New York. Jalen Hyatt's going to start for the Giants this fall, but I don't know, Matt Green. Everywhere you look, Lante Taylor still doing his thing as a corner in New Orleans. A lot of Vols are having a good show of it, but then you look over. There was a tweet about the Georgia overrated defense guys who just keep getting drafted. Lewis Cine, is it Cine or Cine?
Cine.
Released by the Minnesota Vikings very early in his career.
Yeah.
What's going on with the dogs in the NFL the last couple of years, especially on defense? Is there some overrated where you're looking around, you're like, they're not making the impact by and large? Jalen Carter had a good rookie season, but
I believe Tyson Campbell just became like the 5th highest paid corner in the NFL.
I'm just saying.
I mean, Lewis Cine, he missed his entire rookie year, so I mean, I don't know what his contract situation is and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, definitely disappointing to be cut after 2 seasons. You don't really see that very often with a 1st round pick. But I mean, I'm a college guy more than an NFL guy. I mean, I don't know if there's a trend of Georgia players not panning out.
Trayvon Walker really hasn't popped with the Jags, number 1 overall.
Trayvon Walker, he had like 8-9 sacks last year.
If you watch him, there was a guy who did a whole breakdown of every sack from Trayvon Walker last year on Twitter. They were. It wasn't like who would be a good. Jalen Carter earned his sacks. I guess it's more of like he walked into some sacks there. If you watch some of the tape.
You break down everybody's tape, and there someone's gonna walk into some sacks. I mean, that's just we're splitting hairs here. I mean, what they do at the NFL, that's a whole nother thing. Georgia's putting out NFL players. I mean, Georgia's what, like third, fourth most NFL players from any college. Yeah. It's like Georgia's a factory at this point. Like you heard D'Amico Ryans hyping up Kamari Lassiter and how prepared dudes are when they come out of Georgia. Like he's creating a lot of buzz this offseason with the Texans. So, I think Georgia's sitting in a good place. Like Brock Bowers, I really want to see what Brock Bowers is at the NFL. Like he was an absolute freak in college. It's like the NFL is just it's next level.
I think Ladd's gonna be good in LA. I think Ladd McConkey's gonna be pretty good with the Chargers.
Yeah, I hope so, man. Ladd's a baller.
Yeah. Well, did you have any other dog bites this week, Matt Green, or anything you want to throw out here before we dive into your Connor Stallions movie review hour?
Yeah, I don't have too much. Obviously we'll get into Georgia Clemson here in a little bit, but so you haven't watched the Connor Stallions Netflix documentary yet?
It's not
Sign Stealer or something like that.
Yeah, I just don't. This is a take, Matt Green. I don't really like sports documentaries. Like really a lot of documentaries could just be Wikipedia research. Like you just dive in there. They just don't like. There's not a lot of OJ Made in America documentaries out there. Like there are some good ones, and I love a good like documentary, but I need to see a lot of reviews where it's like, oh no, this is great. Like the Florida one was terrible that they just did this year.
A lot of it's about who's producing the documentary and like just making themselves look as good as possible.
Yeah,
that 10-part Jordan propaganda we had to sit through that was produced by MJ for MJ. It's like Gary Payton had a great game when he started guarding you game 3 and game 4, right? No, he didn't. Well, we saw it. The Sonics won those games. No, he didn't give me a hard time. That's ridiculous. Okay, thanks MJ. Great stuff. But no, this Untold is the like that brand of documentaries. I don't know what you want to call it. They're doing those sports ones with Johnny Manziel and the Florida one and everything. Some of them have been good, some better than others. But this guy, Connor Stallions, like this man's dream was to just coach at Michigan. Like from the time he was like a little kid, he went to Halloween as a Michigan coach. So he's like a 4-year-old. But he's got like the 3-year like suspension. I don't know, show cause, whatever you want to call it. Like not allowed to coach in college football, and I think Harbaugh has something similar. But after watching that, like they went into all his military background and kind of how he like first just started at Navy and started trying to decipher other team signs, and that's just what he kept doing as he went up. And it's interesting how people feel when it's like the double standard of like a rule I don't really care about. It's like you break a rule, you break a rule. But it's like, we don't really care about that rule. So I guess we don't care. You know what I mean? Like Michigan can't win a championship without some sort of controversy, right? I guess the basketball, they basketball didn't win a championship, just a couple Final Fours. But so that part's interesting. But my biggest takeaway from this is that the NCAA should just remove this guy's suspension because we need that guy focused on football, because this guy could be some sort of criminal mastermind. If he's not allowed to coach football, like this man just is insanely detailed in like everything he does and like his military logistic background and everything. It's like, let's just keep this guy focused on football and the world will be a better place.
Do you remember the Bill Burr appearance on Conan from years ago?
I don't know. Not off the top of my head.
Where he talks about Lance Armstrong and why it was important to keep him on a bicycle. It's basically the same thing where it's like, I'm not going to recreate the joke here, but it's a great 2-minute bit from Bill Burr of like why we should be grateful that Lance Armstrong just rode a bicycle.
Exactly. That was my biggest takeaway from Connor Stallions. Like, I guess they're cheating. I guess I think it was it Travis Williams from Arkansas that had that clip come out a few days ago about like everyone stealing signs and all that. Like, so I feel like no one really in the coaching world seems to think it's that big of a deal, but the extent to which they went to it and like the obviously had to be a lot of money into it, getting these like 50-yard line seats at like a bunch of different games. So I imagine someone was funding it, and then a certain booster was fired after he was linked to be an Uncle T. It was like, or not fired, but like a booster was like removed from the board or something like that. So I don't know. It felt like Michigan was cheating, but I guess no one really cares. So I don't know. It's still a championship.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. They won. Harbaugh's gone. They're probably going to come back down to earth a little bit here. They got their title. And if you're a Michigan fan, you shouldn't care at all. Like, I think that's one of the funnier things where I think people try and get on to Michigan about this, and Michigan fans are like, oh, asterisk title. Guess how many Michigan fans are going to forget and not savor the perfect season from a year ago? Zero. Like, they're all gonna savor it. They're like, what are we doing here? Like, why is this a dunk where it's like, we won, who cares? You move on. It's like Patriots fans where it's like, oh, Spygate, oh, Bill Belichick. It's like, no, I think they had a good time. I think Patriots fans really enjoyed the Bill Belichick era in New England.
That's what sucks too. It's like they cheated, and it's like, oh, okay, it still happened. Like even the Deflategate, it's like that's a thing. Like, no one really cared about. It's like, but it was still cheating. Like they did break the rules, and no one really cares. And two different cheating scandals. But did you see the record, Jim Harbaugh, before and after Connor Stallions?
Yes.
49-26 before Connor Stallions, then 40-3 after Connor Stallions. So I'm not saying this is the reason Michigan won a championship, but man, for just like the super Michigan fan, like your entire life, like this guy's gonna just go down to like folklore, of like Michigan man just did everything he could to help Michigan win a national championship.
Well, it just goes back to like, if all this is true or whatever, we don't know. We'll never know 100% of what this all entailed, but coaches and programs, there's just so much pressure to go and do every single thing possible to a national title. Like, yeah, they make a lot of money, but there is a lot of pressure in winning in big time college football. And I don't think this will be the last crazy college football trying to get ahead type story that we'll see here in the next couple of years. Matt Green.
See, that's what you don't get in the NFL. You don't get Harvey Updike and Connor Stallions in the NFL. That's college football. It just means more.
It does. Well, Matt Green, our week 1 picks are here. We got 12 games to go through, and I think we'll do 12 to make it even. A nice number here each week in terms of our pick 'em. But you had some long-term stats before we dive into our first game, that being Georgia and Clemson, Matt Green.
Yes, sir. So we started this thing back in 2021, sir. So we go way back, but I won't give you every year, but let's go back to 2023. Zeus's best record on year for his home dogs of the week, 70.6 winning percentage a year ago.
How is Zeus with how is the ACL? He's good?
No, Zeus is best shape of his life right now.
Is he? He had a good offseason, good camp.
We just looked at a picture from like, I don't know, January 2020 versus like 3 months ago, and man, this guy, best shape of his life.
What's changed? Diet?
He was a little overweight. He was
plant-based?
Living with Tori's parents, Tori's mother specifically. Yeah, he's a little hefty, but yeah, he's trimming down. Best shape of his life. So shout out Zeus. He's feeling great coming into 2024. Gonna keep that momentum rolling from a big 2023 season.
Maddox, okay. Has Maddox asked like, why? What do I got to do to get a home dog of the week opportunity, or is it just like Zeus is just it's an elderly type
he's just
deal?
Not the big dog, one day he's not ready for that. Zeus is seasoned. It took a lot of years for him to get to that spot. So Maddox is he's developing his college football acumen. So he's just not there yet. Okay. He's not ready for the big show.
Okay.
But a season ago, my worst season on record, against the spread, 51.6 against the spread, still over 50%. So still broke even. You, sir, were 57.1% against the spread a year ago. I was 65.2% overall, and you were 67.7% overall. So, we between the two of us, we were giving the people 55% success rate against the spread. So that's all you can ask for. We're making the people money out here.
Yeah. I love it. Well, Matt Green, I'm going to throw in Tennessee too. We're going to do, you don't have to mention anything about Tennessee Chattanooga, but it's not going to be a part of our pick'em. But I do have some Tennessee Chattanooga stuff I want to get out here before.
I bet you do.
But you know the people. Hey, it's a pod divided here at Tennessee and Georgia college football show here, Matt Green. So first up, Georgia, Clemson, Saturday, 12 o'clock. The Clemson Tigers, 13.5-point dogs in Atlanta. Matt Green, how do you see this game going?
Yes, sir. Georgia is 43-18-4 all time versus the Clemson Tigers. Last time the Clemson won in the state of Georgia was 1986. Georgia's 7-1 since Chase Thomas has been alive.
Okay.
So Georgia's dominated this rivalry as of late.
Obviously, the last time a year older than me.
Yeah, but that's why Clemson won in 1990.
Okay.
So when I cut off like 91, I was able to get that last.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So I had to cherry pick my data set, obviously. But you look at, obviously last time they played was 2021 and no offensive touchdowns were scored in the game. So you look at what Clemson is coming into this season. Obviously they lose Will Shipley from a year ago. And this wasn't even a great run team. Like they were good at running the ball a year ago, but Cade Klubnik is, I don't know. Cade Klubnik is athletic, but I was expecting, he's almost reminds me of Jalen Milroe from a sense in terms of Jalen Milroe's athleticism. He is up there with Lamar Jackson and those people, but he had 400 yards rushing last year. Lamar Jackson had 1,600 yard rush seasons, right? Jaden Daniels had 1,400 yards, 1,200 yards or something last year. As athletic as Cade Klubnik is, I'm looking at his stats. He had 150 yards rushing last season. So I didn't look into the sack numbers. That could play a part, but you just look at obviously Georgia lost 3 starters in the secondary. Last year gave up 113 yards a game on the ground, which is the worst Georgia defense since 2018. Since 2019, every year they were below 80 yards a game. So then they shot up to 113 a year ago. And obviously they did have a really good secondary. So it balanced it out overall in terms of how good their defense was a year ago. But I think that run defense ultimately is why they missed the college football playoff a year ago. So that has to be improved. But I'm curious to see if Clemson's able to exploit that. Clemson likes their young wide receivers, these their leading receivers back from last year. But
Bryant
obviously
Wesco
Georgia,
and TJ Moore.
Yeah, and the question mark with Georgia, I think everyone's talking about, is the running back room with Roderick Robinson out for maybe 2 months. They were saying maybe the Florida game might be the first game he's back, and then Trevor Etienne. I keep going back and forth with Trevor Etienne. The people in the know seem to think he's going to be suspended, but my biggest thing is when Chip Towers tweeted that it actually, because there used to be a rule, that was why Mark Richt had his hands tied and why Steve Spurrier made those comments he did about Georgia years ago, was in Georgia's student handbook. It was something about an alcohol related arrest was automatic, 10% of your competition, and so that Georgia players would be suspended for 1 or 2 games. And now that's not actually in the student handbook. And Kirby Smart is not really talking about it, being intentionally vague about it. And I guess you could be intentionally vague because you want Clemson to prepare for a guy who's not going to play, or you just don't want to give them any sort of advantage of knowing he's not going to play. So the intentional vagueness could go both ways, but I don't know if Kirby Smart doesn't have to suspend Trevor Etienne, I would think he would want that. He would want that guy playing in what's, not a super experienced backfield for Georgia.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things there. Friend of the pod, Graham Coffey, he over there at Dog Central, he tweeted out about Carson Beck, and one of the things that makes Carson Beck so good is how good he is under pressure. His completion percentage was actually pretty bonkers, and just go check out Graham's Twitter feed to see just how good Carson Beck was when pressured, which is important. It's indicative of elite quarterback play when you're able to withstand pressure. And the reason I bring that up is I think Clemson's going to get home. I think Clemson's front seven's good, especially their defensive line is especially strong here. I think people are overlooking that Clemson. Look, the transfer portal jokes are what they are. The defense is still really good, and this was still a 10-7 rock fight 4 years ago. Matt Green,
10-3.
10-3, yeah. Like it was a rock fight. Like this was something that was close. I understand Georgia's come a long way. Clemson's fallen off a little bit. But where Clemson really hasn't fallen off is defense. Like this is still an elite defense that has a lot of dudes that I think will give Georgia some problems. I think Cade Klubnik is final ride here. I'm curious what it looks like in year 2 in the Garrett Riley system. I don't really want to bet against Garrett Riley in back-to-back years. I think Phil Maffa will do just fine replacing Will Shipley. I think he's going to have a good year. We talked about the freshman receivers that they got coming in there, excited about. But I think they still have a lot of talent. Like this is still a team in the top 15 in the blue chip ratio. The line was Clemson -3 the last time they played, so it's a big shift from that time. But I think because Georgia's going to be, I'm guessing, is going to be kind of thin at running back. I think, and you're already thin at receiver in terms of like known commodities. I think this is going to be a big Dominic Lovett game, is my guess. We'll see a lot of Oscar Delt, and I'm curious how that rotation at tight end unfolds against Clemson. But it's a first game. There's going to be some Carson Beck's going to have to get used to some new options out wide. I think he's obviously going to have to get used to some new tight ends, play with a new running back, potentially, depending, like Nate Frazier. It seems like he might get some real run in this one, but I think by and large, everything about this game just screams close. Like, I think this line's just too high. Like, I don't think Georgia's going to lose this game, but I also don't think Clemson needs this. Like, Clemson can lose this game and very easily still make the college football playoff and be a top 4 seed with the first round bye. So Georgia kind of needs this more with their schedule, and I think they're going to play to that degree. But my gut is Georgia wins. But I think a lot of people nationally are assuming Georgia just beats the crap out of Clemson, and I just don't think that's what's going to happen here. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think, and I think this will end up being Georgia. Give me Georgia 28, Clemson 21. I think Clemson covers.
Before I get into my pick, obviously, I think you have an idea where I'm leaning. I think Georgia, yeah, they might not have the most proven guys in terms of offensive weapons, but like I think this might be a deeper receiver group than it was a year ago. It's just you might not know the names, you might not have the superstar like Brock Bowers was, or even a Ladd McConkey, but I think you just have like 5 or 6 like really good players.
But do you have them in week 1? I don't know if Dylan Bell is ready. I don't know if Arian Smith is comfortable.
If Dylan Bell's ready, like Dylan Bell broke out. Like Dylan Bell's one of the proven commodities.
I mean,
did you see
when
what
you
he
say
was?
Proven, I'm talking like he might be the guy on the outside that teams are conscientious of.
How the season ended with like those games Dylan Bell had versus Tennessee and versus Florida State, like I think Dylan Bell is like him and Dom Lovett are the 2 proven commodities. Obviously, Colby Young has been a big time D1 receiver, so it's like
new system.
He's not really a question mark necessarily on what he is, but and then I just think you have a lot other playmakers: Anthony Evans, Arian Smith, London Humphreys potentially. Like there's just a lot of guys we don't know about yet, and you got the best quarterback in college football to help ease all of that, but. I think the biggest difference between now and 2021 is just like, think about Georgia's offensive identity from September 2021 to now. Like you had 2022 and 2023, like back-to-back seasons where Georgia led the SEC in passing offense. Like that's just unheard of for what they were the first like 6-7 years of Kirby's, or 5-6 years of Kirby Smart's tenure. So it's just a completely night and day, especially with how Clemson's they were 2 ships passing in the night, basically, in 2021, and Georgia was becoming the national powerhouse, and Clemson was going the other way. But the last thing I'll say, Cade Klubnik, I'm stealing this stat from Josh Pate. I don't know if you saw his home road splits. At home, a year ago, 6-1, 14-3 touchdown to interception ratio, and Clemson averaged 37 points a game. On the road or neutral sites a year ago, they were 3-3. He threw 5 touchdowns and 6 picks, and Clemson averaged 21 points a game. Like think that's a big difference. I think this Georgia defense, I think it's going to be improved on the defensive line from where it was a year ago. Like I don't see them giving up 100 yards a game on the ground again. I think Carson Beck has I think this offense has a good day, and I think Georgia wins it. I'm gonna say 38-21, and Georgia kind of cruises in the second half in this one.
Okay. We disagree out of the gate here, Matt Green.
Yes, sir.
Where are we going next?
Well, it's up to you. If it's up to me, I'm going chronological.
Okay, you're out. Well, I guess I'll get back in the saddle here.
Yeah.
LSU on Sunday, Matt Green. LSU USC, which I think will be the game of the weekend. USC 4-point dogs here against the Tigers. Tigers 0-2 in these season openers the last 2 years under Brian Kelly against the Florida State Seminoles. If you recall, 2 years ago was pretty wild. That crazy finish with LSU and the special teams and all that kind of stuff. That ended up playing a role against Tennessee as well. Some early mistakes for the Tigers, the Bayou Bengals, that early 2022 season. But Matt Green, I think we're going to disagree here. LSU, USC, how do you see this playing out?
Man, this is the game we needed in 2023, man. Like, this is just an absolute track meet. These two teams are almost like identical, like identities coming into this season. Like LSU first in the country in points per game a year ago, 82nd in points allowed. USC third in points per game, 121st in points allowed. Both are replacing dynamic Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks and need to figure out what the hell they're doing on defense. I just tend to think LSU historically is going to figure that out and have a pulse defensively. Lincoln Riley coach teams. I don't know that he can breathe the culture of having a good defense. Like, it remains to be seen. So and obviously you talk about a lot of people think LSU's got the best offensive line in the country. So I mean, that's a pretty huge X factor in this game. So obviously Brian Kelly, like you said, 0-2 in season openers. Since he was the LSU head coach. But I feel like I just trust LSU more. I think we could see some of that same track meet type stuff at times and questionable tackling in this game. But I'm gonna give LSU the nod, 41-35. So that's they'll win and cover.
You're buying the Bengals here, and I am not, Matt Green. This is probably maybe my boldest take here on this week one. It's not going to be a popular one. I think USC wins this game. USC and LSU both aren't going to get pressure. I don't like Bear Alexander and company. This USC defensive line's not good. They're not going to be good all year. D'Anton Lynn, you talk about it. Like, they both had defensive coordinator hires. D'Anton Lynn moves over from UCLA to USC. UCLA was a top 15 defense a year ago. Brings in some UCLA guys. They're going to be okay, I think, in the back end a little bit, but they're just not going to be able to get pressured this year. That doesn't really matter in this particular game because Garrett Nussmeier, we'll see. I think there's going to be a drop-off from Nussmeier from Daniels to Nussmeier. I don't know how big and how steep, but there's going to be a little bit of a dip. I'm not as nervous about them not getting pressure on Nussmeier as I would have been against Daniels in this spot. Here's the other thing. LSU's front seven is not all that scary either. We saw they used Harold Perkins a year ago. We look at that defensive line. They got trashed all offseason for not being a little bit more proactive in addressing the interior, especially on the defensive line for LSU. This is not a scary front seven. We'll see what Blake Baker looks like in his first year, but I think this is more. I think it's actually going to be harder for him to turn this around than I think it will be for Lynn at USC. And USC, their record all time in season openers, 98, 24, and 8. They're actually sneaky better than you would think against the SEC schools historically, 31, 15, and 2. I'm also a bigger Miller Moss guy than Garrett Nussmeier. I think they have the better quarterback here. Not just because Lincoln Riley is better at developing quarterbacks, but I mean, Brian Kelly deserves credit for what Daniels just won the Heisman. But what I'm saying is, I think Miller Moss showed last year down the stretch, former 4-star, he's top 15 quarterback in his class. Like, Miller Moss can play. And you look at his 247 profile, like he's a top 4.7. I think his comp is like Drew Brees, if I remember correctly, on 247 coming out of high school. So Miller Moss, I think, is going to be a good player. Like, I think this is one of those where people are just like, oh, you're replacing Caleb Williams, so there has to be a drop-off. I don't think there's going to be a drop off. I think they would have gone out and added. I mean, they brought in UNLV quarterback who I think was briefly at Georgia or going to go there, Maeva, and then ended up at USC instead, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
he was
But
committed to Georgia
yeah,
for like a
but
week.
they went with Miller Moss. I think Miller Moss is going to be good. I think they've got Zachariah Branch. They've got dudes out wide. I think they're going to be okay at receiver. I think they're going to score some points, and I think they're more ready to go. And I think this is a big one. I think people make jokes about the USC Alabama game from years ago on the opener where they were like crawling out of the tunnel and then got blasted. What was that, like 52-6 or something?
You saw that video recently. Was it Max Brown? Was that the quarterback
Mhm.
that he was like breaking down some like TikTok video where he's like, I missed this post route on the first drive and the whole game could have been completely different. You're just like, dude, you guys lost by like 40 points. What are you talking about?
Hey, but Matt Green, I'm gonna go. USC steals this one and changes the narrative a little bit because I'm buying the Lincoln Riley revitalization stock here this year. So give me USC 38, LSU 35. I think this is a barn burner, but USC wins in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that Miller Moss is going to have like Heisman-like production because basically every single Lincoln Riley quarterback does. But, you know, it's all about improving the other side of the ball before I believe in Lincoln Riley, honestly.
Hey, he addressed it this offseason finally, going from Grinch to D'Anton Lynn. I think D'Anton Lynn's just going to be a really good hire. He also
How many years have you been a head coach? Like it's like year 7. He's been a head coach or something.
Hey, he made the change, and also he brought in North Dakota State's head coach, who's their assistant head coach now and linebackers coach. So he's addressed it. He's been proactive. Like it hasn't been national fodder, but don't doubt Lincoln Riley, I would say, over there on the West Coast. I'm buying all the Lincoln Riley USC Trojan stock here.
We'll see. Year 8 for Lincoln Riley.
Hey, there you go. Notre Dame versus Texas A&M Saturday night in College Station, Matt Green. A&M 3-point home dogs against the Fighting Irish. What say you, sir?
This was a tough one for me. I kept going back and forth because I think about like what Notre Dame's been the last few years, and oh man, why am I blanking on your boy's name from Wake Forest?
Sam
I want to
Hartman.
say Riley Skinner.
Yeah.
Sam Hartman.
It's not our boy. It's our wives.
Oh yeah, there you go. Sam Hartman. Like Sam Hartman's one of those guys who's just like he's a good quarterback, but like I would take a worse arm than Sam Hartman for someone like Riley Leonard's legs, you know, in college. I think those guys that are dynamic athletes, you know, like Stetson Bennett, that's kind of the difference between Stetson Bennett and all these other Georgia quarterbacks recently. And coincidentally, he's the one that won 2 championships, right? Like when you have that ability to make plays with your legs, it's just that X factor, especially in the college game. So like, I really do like how Riley Leonard kind of just fits into the identity of what Notre Dame's been in recent years. I don't know if we're overrating him because of how good he was in 2022. And obviously he was hurt a lot last year, but I feel like I kind of keep going back to Mike Elko went 3-9. Obviously the reunion between these guys from Duke in this game, but he took Duke, a 3-9 Duke team, to 9-4 in 1 year. And like this roster is way more loaded than that Duke roster was that he took over. So I feel like this A&M team, like they might not be ready to compete for an SEC title, but they got to be, I think, at least in the upper half of the SEC this year. And I think, I don't think Notre Dame can come into College Station. So I think this is going to be like a rock fight. Like, I think this is going to be a really defensive game. Give me A&M like 24-20.
Interesting. We're actually going to agree here. I think A&M at home, it's going to be rocking. College Station, one of the toughest places to play at home. Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, the weird injury stuff all offseason. One of the sneaky parts about this is that Mike Elko coached Riley Leonard and knows Riley Leonard in and out here the last 2 years at Duke. So that's a weird situation to open with, is you're opening against your longtime quarterback who won you a lot of football games at your last school. So and
Riley Leonard knows him too, though.
I'm just going to give it, I'm just gonna go ahead and say Elko has the advantage there in terms of who knows who better, being a bigger thing, especially with Elko being a defensive guy. Notre Dame doesn't have anybody who scares you out wide. They lost their starting left tackle a few weeks ago for this season, which is not a great spot to be in when you're up against this Texas A&M defensive line. I think the Aggies had the better quarterback here in Connor Wegman, which will be huge. There's no pressure on A&M. There is a lot of pressure on Notre Dame because as an independent, you don't just get to win your title game, or you don't really know how the committee is going to see you if you're Notre Dame, for the college football playoff. You don't really know what you have to get to win total wise, and how they're going to view you, come the selection show here in December. So they kind of actually really need to win this for their narrative, because this is like Texas A&M is just all vibes. Like Mike Elko, we're normal, it's fine. I mean, but here's the thing,
This could very well be the toughest game on the schedule, though.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see what USC looks like. We'll see what some of these other games. I mean, Tech now looks a lot more difficult on the road for Notre Dame than it did a week ago. So we'll see. I mean, that's the fun part about college football.
We're gonna compare Kyle Field to Bobby Dodd Stadium.
I'm just saying, what is Brent Key's record against ranked teams in the ACC to this point, Matt Green? The dude went he's doing well. Brent Key's
there might be more Notre Dame fans there than Tech fans. They're gonna use that picture. They're gonna use the picture of the Notre Dame game and all their brochures moving forward, because it's gonna be a bunch of gold in the stadium. It's gonna be packed out, and it's gonna look like Tech packed it out.
Okay. Notre Dame was 9th in scoring on the road last season, which I think was an underrated point. They were a really good road team, and that matters here going into enemy territory. They've been 500 against the SEC in the 2000s. Obviously, some all-time great matchups against Georgia holding their own there. But I don't like the receivers. I don't like this offense in year one, even with Denbrock coming in from LSU this offseason. I think that will ultimately be a positive thing. I just think Notre Dame's going to take some time to get this thing moving. I think Colin Klein and company and a healthy Connor Wegman and the group that they're going to have here, night game in College Station. This is a coin flip game anyway with -3. I think A&M's just winning this game outright, but I do think Notre Dame's going to hold to the very end. I wouldn't be surprised if the team with the ball last wins this one, but I think it's going to be, like you said, a low scoring affair. Give me A&M 27. Give me A&M 27, Notre Dame 24.
Oh, that's a push, sir.
Oh, 23. Here, we'll just do 23. No, it's not. Notre Dame's favored.
Oh, shoot. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was looking at A&M. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so that's the home dog of the week then.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
You didn't realize it, or Zeus? Wake Zeus's ass up. We got to Zeus on top of it.
Tell me. He forgot to speak up. That's the home dog of the week. Texas A&M Aggies.
Next up, Florida, Miami.
Last thing, I was gonna say about Notre Dame. This feels like a game Notre Dame loses because, everyone, like, they're definitely the most hated team in college football in terms of just like brand, and just like people think they're overrated every year.
I don't think that's true anymore. I think Michigan's the most hated team in college football now.
That could be true, but that, like, a Houston Astros, it's not a long lasting thing. Like,
I
feel like Notre Dame is like decades and decades of them being overrated, not being in a conference. Like, even though their schedule year in and year out is usually pretty tough, but this feels like the game they lose. And you look up in November and they're like 9-1 with like no real good wins. And then everyone's just going to be pissed that they're like number 7 or something like that, with the early loss too. That'll help them get back up in the polls. That just says all the makings of what Notre Dame season.
Okay. Florida, Miami here. Florida 4-point home dogs against the Hurricanes down south. What say you, Matt Green?
All right, so all time, Miami is 29-27 against the Gators, 5-2 since 2000. So obviously, recent history has been all Hurricanes, except for 2 of the last 3. Florida has won. The last time was that season opener back in 2019, which is one of the uglier games I can remember in college football. Felipe Franks tried to lose that game a couple times. But this feels like the most consequential game of the weekend to me. Like, just the ultimate, like, vibes game. Like, Florida lost 5 straight to end the season. Miami lost 4 of the last 5 to end the season. Like, we both had Miami in our college football playoff. Like, obviously, we don't have to even get into the Napier hot seat stuff. Like, this game just feels so massive for both fan bases. Like, obviously, Miami can lose this game and still win the ACC, get to the college football playoff. But losing to Florida with what Florida is right now would just feel a certain way. And then obviously Florida, like, you win this game, like, okay, now like 3-0, 4-0 looks realistic. But you lose this game, it's like, oh man, this was at home when vibes are still good. Like, no one's hanging their head about losing however many games. Like, it just feels like this is just such a massive, like, I don't know, like temperature gauge of what these two teams are going to do this year. It's hard to pick against Florida in the Swamp, to be honest, especially like I said early in the season when they still have hope, when the place is still rowdy. I looked at Cam Ward's 2023 stats versus Power 5 competition on the road. Are you familiar with what this guy did on the road a season ago?
I'm not.
Sure, they got the win at Colorado State, had a big game. I'm not counting that one. You're supposed to win those games. On the road against Pac-12 competition a year ago, 0-5, 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He was 16 touchdowns and 2 picks in the other 7 games. Like, we're seeing a very different guy on the road in Cam Ward. Not to mention, I'm not looking at that schedule right now in front of me. I feel confident that maybe one of those is Washington or Oregon. I feel confident most of those don't get as loud as the Swamp gets on a Saturday in the fall. So I think ultimately, even though I have Miami in my college football playoff, I think I'm picking Florida to get this done in week 1. So give me the Gators 27-24.
I didn't think we were going to agree on this.
Oh, man. Georgia and Tennessee guys both picking the Gators?
I've been on this for a while. I think Florida gets off to a hot start. Everything about this screams. Look, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Let me clear this up. I would not be surprised at all if Miami wins this game and wins this game comfortably even. Like a disaster type situation for Florida, I think is absolutely on the table here. But you have to bet against Cristobal in these big spots until he proves otherwise. Like, on the road here is tough. Here's a crazy stat. Florida has won 33 consecutive home openers, Matt Green, at the Swamp.
Wow.
They have not lost a home opener in my lifetime, which is just crazy. Something I worry about.
They lost one in my lifetime?
No.
Okay.
1990 was the last time they lost.
Oh, so they have. Damn.
Yeah. But Cam Ward, 7 picks last year. He had 14 fumbles. I think this is one where Shannon Dawson, I like him as an offensive coordinator. I think, like I said, I picked Cam Ward to win the Heisman. This could be either a great Heisman setting game for him or a step back where it's like we see the best and worst of Cam Ward in this game, and then we'll see which one we see more of being the difference. But, like, Graham Mertz doesn't make any kind of mistakes, Matt Green. Like, he was second in completion percentage nationally last year. He's really good under pressure. PFF had him at a 78.9 PFF grade under pressure a year ago. I think this is just one of those things where Miami was 2-3 on the road last year, and their 2 victories was against an awful Boston College team and at Temple, another awful FBS team. So they really didn't win a good road game a year ago. There's just a lot on this particular Miami team and Damian Martinez, Cam Ward, all the talent that they have here. I mean, they should be in the ACC title game. They should win this game. But since being in the ACC, they have one 10-win season, Matt Green. One. Been in the ACC title once, never won the ACC. Like, I need to see it. I have seen Florida win these early games. They beat Utah in a crazy way 2 years ago. Remember, like, Utah, like,
was that Pac-12 champion Utah?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, just because Florida wins this game doesn't mean we're saying Florida's going to go 10-2 and Billy Napier's fixed everything. Week 1 at Florida. Florida's a tough place to play. It's a rivalry game. Cristobal is going to be in a big spot here. I don't know. I think everything to me screams trust Florida and make Miami prove you wrong. So I wouldn't be surprised if Miami won this game, but I also am going to have to see. They're the ultimate, let me see it first, and then I'll change my mind the rest of the way. Like, if they can put on a statement type game here, but I'm not going to bet again. I'm not going to bet that they do that until they do. So give me Florida 30, 31, Miami Man, I'm going to say another close one. Miami, let's just say 27.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like, not to contradict like what I said previously, like I feel like that's how the fans are gonna feel after this week. But Miami could easily, win 10 straight games or something after losing this Florida. And it might not even mean that they're better. There's something about Florida playing at home. Like, I think you get the best out of them.
Next up, a sneaky game that I'm very excited about. Penn State, West Virginia. There is no way this game is not drunk as hell, Matt Green. Penn State, West Virginia is going to be rowdy. Garrett Green, one of the best West Virginia quarterbacks they've had in a while. Drew Aller, big opportunity for him. Penn State's thinking CFP. West Virginia finished the season strong last year, winning 5 of 6. What say you about the Mountaineers and Neil Brown welcoming their rivals over there in East Pennsylvania?
Well, you know how I feel about the Nittany Lions, sir. But you also know how I feel about Morgantown, West Virginia. I love West Virginia at home. I just think ultimately Penn State is being overlooked. Like, just bottom line. Like, the Michigan game and the Ohio, like, this team was 12th in the country in points per game a year ago. Like, you would have thought they were Iowa with the way people talk about them, right? Like, it was really just Alabama. Ohio. You say that again?
That was Alabama.
Yeah. But you look at what they were like against everybody except Ohio State and Michigan. Like, this team put up a bunch of points. Like, what was the West Virginia score? They blasted West Virginia a year ago. Like, I think West Virginia keeps this game close for a while, but ultimately I'm going to take Penn State to win and cover. So give me Penn State, give me the 31-17.
Yeah, I think that's probably a safe way to go here. I just don't think it's going to be that big. Like, you have them covering 8.5 is low here that's a lot of respect to West Virginia in this spot. I think it's going to be interesting because West Virginia has not beaten another just game where West Virginia has not won in our lifetime. West Virginia has not beaten Penn State since 1989. Garrett Green's good, though. I think he's proven more than Drew Aller to this point. We'll see what Drew Aller looks like on the road. And speaking of that, Aller, 25 touchdowns, 2 picks last year against unranked teams, which West Virginia is. 21 touchdowns, 1 interception, 64% completion percentage. So he really took care of business against weaker competition a season ago. West Virginia's secondary got carved up.
Teams like West Virginia?
Yeah. Well, West Virginia's secondary I'm worried about in this game. They were over 80th in defensive EPA per play. The opposing quarterbacks had 10 TDs and 1 pick, ranked as ranked teams a year ago. So West Virginia secondary did not play well against ranked quarterbacks. I don't know. I don't think that's going to go well. I think this is going to be a good Drew Aller game. I think he's going to be solid, but I also think Garrett Green and company is going to keep this close. So I do think Penn State's going to win, but I think West Virginia is going to make them earn it, and they're going to cover. So give me Penn State 38, West Virginia 31.
See, I think Garrett Green, like, as good as he is, I feel like his most dangerous weapon is his legs, and I feel like against the athletes that Penn State has defensively, I don't think that's a good matchup.
Maybe.
What was your score?
38-31.
38-31. So Penn State does not cover.
No.
All right.
TCU at Stanford, Matt Green, plus 9.5 for the Cardinal at home here, with Taylor going into year 2 with the Cardinal. What say you about the Horned Frogs on the road?
I just look at what Stanford was a year ago. Like, we talk about how bad TCU was last year just because they were coming off a national championship, but like, this team wasn't just terrible. Like, I think they were 3rd or 4th in the Big Ten and in total offense a year, or in the Big 12 in total offense a year ago. Like, they still had a pulse. This Stanford team was just awful. Like, this was the worst defense in the Pac-12 a year ago. Like, offense near the bottom of the Pac-12. Obviously, they're in the ACC now, so they're just going to be one of the worst in the ACC now. But I don't know. I think I'm not impressed with Stanford. I'm gonna take TCU to win big. Give me TCU 44-27.
Yeah, I think TCU. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, have you watched any Josh Hoover stuff from last year?
I've watched very little.
Josh Hoover is kind of like, he's my kind of quarterback, like the quarterback of Virginia, Colin Drea. He's a madman. Like, I don't know if he's good, but he's gonna throw picks. He's gonna throw it up. He's gonna be just must-watch television. Josh Hoover is the same way, where this dude put up some numbers. Former 3-star quarterback. He was a true freshman last year, I think. But that dude is just all over the place. He's got moxie, Matt Green, and we like it on this very program because he's just, you never know what he's gonna do with the ball in his hands. He's a chaos engine, and I think that could be good or bad. You saw 2 years ago with Max Duggan. You saw the best version of what TCU could be with those kind of just all-around quarterbacks. I'm not saying Hoover's going to be Max Duggan 2.0, but, I mean, he threw for over 2,200 yards last year, 15 touchdowns. Their offensive line's going to be really good. They got the Florida State left tackle transfer coming in there to shore that up. He returns his top 2 receivers from a year ago in Richardson and Williams. They're a weirdly good even year team. So I saw on CFB News when in even odd year stuff with the Horned Frogs, they were 5-7 in 2019, 2021, and 2023, similar to like the San Francisco Giants. And they had winning seasons in 2018 and 2020, and then obviously went to the national title in 2022. So it's an even year for the Horned Frogs. So I'm gonna say they start off good here, and I think Stanford's gonna be in for another rough season, unfortunately, for the Cardinals. So give me TCU to win and cover. Give me TCU like, I think the Stanford defense is not good, so give me TCU 45, Stanford like 24.
All right, and I have to correct our previous pick. A&M is favored against Notre Dame. So they are the 3-point favorite in that game. So that is not the home dog of the week.
Wait, hold on.
Skipped one of our games here. Notre Dame.
Did you say A&M is favored or is not?
3-point favorite.
I thought Notre Dame was the favorite.
A&M is favored.
Are you sure?
No, A&M's a 3-point favorite. On our sheet here, it says +3s against Notre Dame is next to Notre Dame.
Okay, so, yeah. They are favorites. Sorry. Okay.
So that's not the home dog of the week, but you skipped one of our games here. So let's go back. Are you done? You done with TCU Stanford, right?
Yes, I'm done. Let's jump into it.
Let's go. North Carolina, Minnesota is on the sheet here. Obviously these teams played a year ago in Chapel Hill. North Carolina won 31-13. But North Carolina returns maybe the best running back in college football this year, and Marion Hampton. They also return, they're 127th in the country in returning production this year, and that's not great. So I don't know how much I'm feeling North Carolina this year. They've been top 15 preseason each of the last 4 seasons. I got a trivia question for you. Since 2000, North Carolina has been preseason ranked 7 times. Can you tell me how many times they have been ranked in the final AP rankings since 2000?
0?
Twice. Yeah. And one of those years they were ranked like 20th preseason. One of those years they were unranked preseason. So they feel like the team that can't really like do it when they have the expectations. But let's be honest, they're not having that many good seasons, period. So North Carolina, I think they need a bounce back year, but in Minnesota, they, as good as Marion Hampton is, Minnesota was like 12th in the Big Ten, I think a year ago, and rushing yards allowed. Like, so I feel like they're typically have that identity as like the team that's like, run first type of team, but they brought in the New Hampshire transfer, Max Brosmer. This dude was a Walter Payton finalist a year ago. So maybe Minnesota gets a little boost to that offense, but I'm really just not buying North Carolina. So give me the Gophers as the home dog of the week, sir. 1.5 point dog. Give me Minnesota 24-20. This is going to be a physical game for 4 quarters.
We agree again here, Matt Green. I was
All
also
right.
going to pick the Gophers here because, I mean, like, I think a lot of people are going to look at UNC thrashing them last year, but like you said, losing a lot. Obviously, returning Hampton is going to be a big deal, but Max Johnson and Connor Harrell looks like it's going to split time here, and you don't want to start off on the road, not really sure who your quarterback's going to be, a team that might be a top 25 team. All said and done with the Gophers and PJ Fleck, who's done a really good job with them. So from the Fayetteville Observer, they said, quote, the Tar Heels, who haven't won a season opener in a true road game since 1985, Matt Green. They are not the
Wow.
road warriors out of the gate. They're sleepy starters over there in the Tar Heel State. Gophers are also, so they're, and PJ Fleck, who I cannot believe he's already been there 8 years. They're 21-2 in non-conference games, Matt Green. The man does not lose outside the Big Ten. PJ Fleck protecting his non-conference record. You talked about the New Hampshire transfer, Brosmer. He led leading FCS in passing yards per game in total offense. So I think I'm pretty bullish on the Gophers and their season total over and everything else. So give me a good start here for the Gophers and to right their wrongs from a year ago against the Tar Heels. So give me I think it'll be lower scoring though. It's just the style of Minnesota. Give me Minnesota. Let's go 27-20 Minnesota.
I would say that is not lower scoring than my score of 24-20.
Mm-hmm. I didn't say yours. I'm just saying it's just low scoring in terms of our other games that we've been looking at. I think there's going to be a lot of high scoring games across our slate, but that's one I would not say.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
All right. Next up, Colorado. So let's do these back to back because I don't think in any other year we would say these two games would be on just like something you need to keep an eye on. That we would recommend the college football listening audience to tune in and not say it doesn't get the main TV. We're not saying that it might need the main TV in the fourth quarter, but Colorado and North Dakota State, and then Oklahoma State and South Dakota State, I think are both going to be close. And it's something that you would not think before the year. FCS, like, oh, they're coming in here, this, that, and the other. There's a reason both of these lines are low against FCS opponents. These are two teams that think that they can win the Big 12 this year. And they're not huge favorites at home against these FCS stalwarts in the Dakotas. So first up, let's talk Colorado here, Matt Green. Colorado is only a 10-point favorite over North Dakota State here. What say you?
I don't know. I feel like Deion Sanders is the most polarizing coach in college football. And I feel like I was on the pro Deion side a year ago. A lot of anti Deion narratives out there, just with everything he was doing on and off the field. I feel like he's trying to make as few Colorado fans as possible around the country. Now they're banning that reporter from asking questions at press conferences. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's just gotten so over the top. I feel like I'm like distracted by all the off-field stuff, and like maybe Deion Sanders is crazy like a fox, and he's bringing all that attention on himself, and now no one's focused on the team, and the team's just grinding and doing what they're supposed to be doing. I don't know. Other reports from ex-players say differently. The rumor mill. I don't know about the culture and everything they got going on at Colorado. I just don't know what to expect from this team, honestly. But at the end of the day, they have more D1 players than North Dakota State does. And I think I'm just going to have to trust the talent, like that they're still healthy. First game of the season, like Travis Hunter hasn't been, run ragged from playing 130 snaps a game. I feel like we're going to get their best in week one. So give me Colorado to win this. Giving them to win and cover. Put up a 40 spot, like 40 to 28.
Wow.
I mean, they're an FCS team. They're good, but they're still an FCS team at the end of the day.
This is a bad matchup for Colorado. I mean, they were 107th,
especially on the road, right?
Per game, huh?
On the road, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fine. The Bison aren't feared, man. They're not going to be fearful, excuse me, going into Boulder here. everything is on Colorado. There's no pressure on the Bison. They're going to be playing loose here. They were one of the best running teams in FCS last year, 237 yards a game on the ground. Colorado better hope that Livingston, the new DC and company, have this flipped, because they're going to have North Dakota State run it right down their throats. Play ball control. We'll see what it looks like. New scheme, obviously, with Schumer running the NFL stuff. With Colorado, they're going to start a 5-star offensive tackle at left tackle, and Jordan Seaton, freshman. Travis Hunter, we know what he is. I like the receivers as a whole with Shepard, Horn, and Hunter, and you get Hendon in there from Ohio State. So I think the offense is going to be solid, but I think they might have the ball out of their hands a little bit here. I think the Bison might control the clock. Cam Miller is back for the Bison. Here's a crazy stat I saw. The Bison, they have beaten 6 FBS teams since 2010, Matt Green. Can you name the 6 teams that they've beaten?
Did they beat Iowa one year?
They beat Iowa in 2016.
I don't know. Did they beat Arkansas?
No.
Okay. Who tell me, give me them.
Beat Iowa State in 2014, beat Colorado State in 2012, beat Kansas State in 2013, Minnesota in 2011, and Kansas in 2010.
Damn, those are all but one are Power 5 or Power 4
and
schools,
Big 12
too.
teams. So everyone who's overlooking, like, oh, it's the Bison, it's the FCS stuff, they could absolutely win this game.
Though? They're probably playing one a year, right?
Probably, yeah.
So since 2010, they've lost a bunch too. So we'll
I wouldn't say a bunch. That's like half. They're batting almost 500 here, Matt Green.
Well, yeah, I mean that's good for them. They're
an FCS team batting 500 against Power 4 teams,
school, but they've still lost as many as they've won. Potentially, I don't even have the number.
Matt, this is a 10-point spread. You would be losing your mind if Georgia was a 10-point favorite against like Kennesaw State or something at home. Like this is crazy. Like this.
I mean, that's part of my. My barometer here was I remember the Quincy Carter Georgia team facing Adrian Peterson and Georgia Southern when they were like best team in the country, and Georgia was maybe ranked preseason. I'm not even sure. And I think they won by like 3 touchdowns, like against the best FCS team in the country. It's a different level playing at D1. Obviously Colorado doesn't necessarily have like, the deepest roster in FBS with all they've done in the portal and everything. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I think there's still a difference in the level of competition. I'll have to look in to see what North Dakota State's record is overall against.
You ready for this, Matt Green?
What's that?
Here's the upset. I think North Dakota State's winning this game. I think they're upsetting Colorado.
Wow.
I think they're going to upset Colorado. Just outright.
What's your score?
Give me the Bison 27, Colorado 24. I think Colorado gets upset here right out of the gate.
I like it.
That's
take.
My big upset special.
What are they going to say about Dion if he loses to an FCS school week 1?
It's going to be interesting. The following game though, Oklahoma State, South Dakota State, the team that has won a bunch of FCS games as well, the Jackrabbits, they go into Stillwater for another big game. Don't schedule them, folks. Don't schedule North Dakota State or South Dakota State if you're an FBS team and you're not like Georgia or something. You just don't want this because that line's even smaller. 9.5 for the Jackrabbits in Stillwater. Matt Green, what say you?
I mean, the Jackrabbits might be a scrappy team here, but like I said, Oklahoma State, I feel way better about Oklahoma State than I do Colorado on just what their floor is. Like, I know we saw, was it last year? Did Oklahoma State lose
Well, I'm glad you bring that up. They got blown out 33-7 at home by South Alabama.
They're FBS,
they had a stinker.
Though, right?
Huh?
They're FBS, though, right?
They are, I mean, CUSA, but yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a big difference between the rosters with the Jags and the Jackrabbits.
No, I'm with you there. I feel like I trust Ollie Gordon will not be suspended. We know that for Mike Gundy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I trust Oklahoma State more. Give me Oklahoma State. What is this? 9.5? Give me Oklahoma State by 2 touchdowns. Yeah, that's not 38-24. Yeah, give me Oklahoma State.
Okay. I'm also taking Oklahoma State because I don't think both are losing at home, but I do think one of these two, Oklahoma State or Colorado, let me just go ahead and say, is getting got this weekend. One of these two is losing to one of the Dakotas, and I just think Colorado is more likely to lose.
You made your pick. If it's South Dakota State, you get no credit.
No, I'm not saying I get some credit for throwing it out. I'm just saying
zero credit. Zero.
No, my on the record take is Colorado loses to NDSU, and that's my upset of the weekend. But South Dakota State's won 29 straight games, Matt Green. They've won back-to-back FCS titles. Mark Gronkowski is the best quarterback in the FCS. He was top FCS player last year, 3,000 passing yards, 37 TDs. Like, this is going to be close, too. Like, anyone who's thinking that Alan Bowman and Ollie Gordon are blowing out the Jackrabbits, think again. I don't think it's going to be a situation where Oklahoma State's just cruising here in the fourth quarter. No, give me Oklahoma State to win this, but I think it's like 31-30. I think this comes down to like maybe a game-winning field goal for Oklahoma State. They're going to be on the ropes. Like, this is going to be another just highly contested, close contest, and I think people are going to be like, wait, what? The Big 12 favorite is on the ropes at home against South Dakota State? What's happening? So, no. Give me Oklahoma State to win, but I think SDSU covers.
All right, I like it.
We can blitz through these final two and then one final one that I wanted to have on here because I think it's interesting with the in-state game. Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt, 13.5 for Virginia Tech on the road here. What say you, Matt Green?
Are we expecting a improved Vanderbilt team this year?
I mean, they can't be really worse offensively, right?
Are we expecting an improved stadium atmosphere?
They are hyping it up, right?
Do we know their capacity now? They were at like 40,000 or something, wasn't it?
Well, I think a lot of these schools, I'm okay with that. Like, a lot of these schools too big. It's just like,
I'm okay with it. I just don't
like if you're Tennessee, you can sell it out. There's not many Tennessee fan bases out there that you just know 102,000. You're good to go.
There's a lot of wiggle room between 102,000 and like 40,000 or whatever they have at Vandy. Like, you can have a nice Arkansas, Ole Miss, like, what, they like 70,000. Like, those places get loud.
Okay.
No, give me Virginia Tech. I don't really know what to expect from Vandy this year, but I know Kyron Drones, he potentially be the best quarterback in the ACC this year, at least one of them. So, I mean, just that alone, I feel like I'm taking Virginia Tech by at least 2 scores. Give me 20, 27. Oh shoot, it's 13.5. Give me 28-14, 28-13.
I think Vanderbilt loses this game, but I do think they cover. I think this is going to be like a lot of Virginia Tech fans are feeling very confident that they're just going to obliterate Vanderbilt on the road here. We make our jokes about Vanderbilt on this program, Matt Green. But I do like what Clark Lee did this offseason in terms of like, I'm just going to go add New Mexico State's coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball. Like, I'm just giving up there and just like Jerry Kill come in, Tim Beck come in, the quarterback's coach come in, and I think the running backs coach also came in. Either running backs or receivers coach came in from New Mexico State. So they did the Western Kentucky thing where they just hired a bunch of guys they liked at that school, and then Western Kentucky was one of the best offenses in college football a couple years ago. It works. It's a pretty smart strategy. You also bring in the quarterback who went into Auburn last year and just curb stomped the Tigers on the road in Diego Pavia, and he's good. Like, Diego Pavia is a good quarterback, and I think Vandy will be feisty this year. I don't think they're going to be good, but I think they're going to win more than 2 games. I had the over-under. I think I hit 4 and 8 for Vanderbilt this year. But I don't think they're going to win this game. I think Kyron Jones is going to have a good game against this Virginia Tech defense. I think it sucks for the Commodores that they lost their top 3 wideouts from a season ago, but I do think Pavia is going to be able to run and use his legs to keep Vanderbilt in this game. I think that's going to be a theme all year long, that he extends stuff for Vanderbilt and is a little pesky and a little bit of an annoyance throughout the year. And people take him lightly because this is going to be a better offense, and these are good offensive minds here and a good quarterback that is going to make them a little bit better. So at home, first week stuff, give me Virginia Tech to win, but I think Vanderbilt covers. So give me Virginia Tech. Let's go 38, Vanderbilt 30.
It's going to be weird seeing Georgia play a season without playing the Commodores this year.
That is weird.
And that rivalry, I'm really going to miss that.
Final two here, Matt Green. UCLA at Hawaii. Hawaii are 14-point dogs at home against UCLA. UCLA is undefeated all time against my Rainbow Warriors.
What do you say about this one, sir?
Oh, you don't want to talk about this game. You've looked at nothing you're not watching a second of this game. It's on CBS, I think.
I'm gonna be asleep by Hawaii. I can make it.
No, it's an early game. It's at like 8 o'clock or something.
Oh shoot, I haven't even looked at this one.
Yeah. Wow. This really diving in here, Matt Green.
I'm sorry. You added this to the sheet. I'm sorry.
Braden Schrager is, I think, going to have a really good game here. I think he had a really good opener against Delaware State over the weekend. He's been the starter for, I think this is year 3 now as the full-time starter. But Ethan Garbers completed over 70% of his passes in the last 2 games of the season in those 2 wins for the Bruins. I'm curious what this looks like with Bieniemy and Deshaun Foster in this offense, but they got pieces. I think they're going to be okay here. They've played 4 times total, which I'm surprised as a whole, but UCLA, like I said, won them all.
Surprise is a low number? Or
yeah, it just feels like you would play more often, recruit the same players and that kind of area. Yeah. I don't know. It just feels like it makes sense to play Hawaii and UCLA and USC to play Hawaii. I don't know. It just feels like they should play each other more often. But strong defensive line. I think UCLA is going to be solid. They're going to be marching towards 5-7, 6-6, but I do think at home they should be okay here. And I think this will be a little bit too much for Hawaii to go in and cover against especially a solid defense for UCLA and an offense that doesn't turn the ball over and has solid quarterback play. I think Garbers is one of the more underrated quarterbacks coming back this year. So give me Bruins. Let's go Bruins 34. Hawaii 17. And then final one here, Mac. Wait, did you make a pick?
I think the first game of the Deshaun Foster era. See, I think things just aren't going to go that smoothly. I think Hawaii, they got that one game under their belt. I think this one's a little closer. So give me UCLA 28, Hawaii 23.
Okay. Final one here.
Closer than the experts think, as Lee Corso would say.
There you go. Final one here, Matt Green. We've got Georgia State at Georgia Tech here. First time these 2 schools have ever played. It needs to be called the Bill Curry Bowl with his history at both schools and all that good stuff. But what say you? 20 and a half.
Del Curry. I was like, Del Curry. No, I got you. Bill Curry. Did he start the Georgia State program?
He did.
Yeah, big time.
So what say you about the 20.5 point line here?
I think this is way too big of a line. I think Georgia Tech's going to be feeling good, but ultimately I think Georgia Tech wins the game. But it just feels like it's not going to be that easy. So give me Georgia Tech like 35, Georgia State 21.
That's fair. This is another one. I'm telling you, folks, keep an eye on this one. Like, I want to see Brent Key got over like the way too far up and then the come back down to earth thing. Because again, last year, do you know who they got beat kind of soundly at home last year? Bowling Green, one of the worst FBS teams. Tech got
that was Jeff Collins though, right?
No, Brent Key.
I thought that was before he got fired. That was an early game, wasn't it?
It was middle of the year.
I think he only coached like the last 5-6 games.
Are we sure?
Not 100%.
Okay, I'm not sure.
I'll look it up. Keep talking.
Wait, yeah. What are you talking about? That was Britt Key has been. He had a full year last year. Matt Green. He got he came in 2022.
Am I misremembering?
Yeah, he came in 2022 because he coached. Yeah, what you made me doubt myself. I was like, wait a second. I thought Brent Key. This was year 3. Yeah, Brent Key, year 3.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Yeah, Jeff Collins just took a year off. Now he's DC at.
Yeah, you were right. You right.
Okay, but yeah, so no, he lost at home to Bowling Green last year. He also lost at home to a terrible Boston College team. He obviously had some big wins on the road at Miami. I think they beat North Carolina, if I remember correctly, last year as well. But Georgia Tech, all time, has never lost to an in-state team outside of Georgia outside of Georgia was the only other one that's happened to was Oglethorpe on September 25th, 1926, in a 7-6 loss. So they haven't really been upset against any other in-state foes outside of Georgia.
The
but
Storming Petrels got it done.
Yeah, they did get it done back in the day. Zach Gibson, the former Tech quarterback, is the quarterback at Georgia State, so that's an interesting wrinkle. He's on Team 3, but I think he's a local Georgia kid originally. But that's another interesting wrinkle here. They're just coming back from playing overseas, feeling good, beating a top 10 team in Florida State, and Del McGee, man, he's gonna have the Panthers. He's gonna have them ready, and I think this is going to be a lot closer than people think. I think people just think Georgia Tech's back and this is going to be great and they're rolling. I think Georgia State's going to be in this game. I think Tech wins, but I think I would almost lock up Georgia State covering this 20.5. That's way too high. So give me Tech like 28, Georgia State like 23. I think this is going to be weirdly close, evenly.
Oh, wow. It is in a Center Park Stadium, which I'll always call Turner Field. But yeah, you said the Bill Curry Bowl, but just call it like the Battle of Atlanta, right? Like if Georgia State wins this, like that's a big time flex in the ATL. But to recap our picks here, we disagree on LSU USC. It looks like you think Clemson and West Virginia are going to cover, but we agree on those. I have Colorado, you have North Dakota State, you got South Dakota State and Vandy covering. But I guess the only pick we disagree on win-loss this whole week or two. It's just LSU, USC, and Colorado, North Dakota State. So we disagree on a few more against the spread, but yeah, overall we're basically the same.
Well, there's just not a lot of those kind of 50-50 coin flip games this week. It's a lot of crazy lines week. This is more of a against the spread type of week where just a lot of interesting lines that we're betting against or betting for. So next week there will be a lot more. I think we're going to have a lot more disagreements this year, especially in the SEC with how these games are going to go. But
I haven't even peeked at the week 2 schedule yet. I'm gonna be surprised when I see it after Saturday. I've just been counting down the days till the first week. I haven't even looked ahead. I know October 12th I think is that big week that everyone's circled, that there's like 5 or 6 like top 15 matchups or something. But yeah, it's glad to have it back, man.
Glad to have it back. It's going to be a good weekend. Matt Green, enjoy it.
And your upset special, that's Thursday, right? Colorado, that's we don't have to wait long for that one.
Yeah, no. The folks listen to this, I'll look like a genius. They might not even hear this until like Friday or something. And they'll be like, whoa, he got this one. So we'll see.
How did he know everything that was going to happen?
I don't know. Matt Green, always a pleasure. And I will talk to you on Sunday.
Yes, sir.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.